Have you ever noticed what happens when you suddenly stop talking to a woman? One minute you're in her world, answering her texts, laughing at her stories, giving her your attention. And the next, you pull it all back. No explanation, no warning, just quiet. And in that pause, something powerful begins to happen. Most men don't realize this, but silence is one of the most seductive tools you'll ever have. Women are emotional creatures, deeply responsive to presence and energy. And when that energy disappears, when the man who once gave her his focus suddenly withdraws, her world tilts a little. She starts asking herself, did I say something wrong? Did he lose interest? Why did he just stop? It's almost ironic, isn't it? She might have been scrolling through her phone, replying late to your messages, or acting like your presence didn't matter. But the very second you stop talking, your absence becomes louder than your words ever were. And in that silence, a woman's mind does something fascinating. It fills in the gaps with desire, with insecurity, with curiosity. Think about it. Haven't you ever been drawn to someone more when they pulled back just a little? It's the same psychology at play, but magnified, because women are used to being pursued. When the script flips, when you step back, the entire game changes. But here's the thing. Not every woman reacts the same way. Some spiral into obsession, others into frustration, and a few, well, they may cut their losses and move on. That's why understanding how a woman reacts to your silence is critical. It's not just about playing games. It's about knowing when silence draws her closer and when it pushes her away. So, in this video, we're going to break down exactly what happens in her heart and her mind the moment you stop talking to her, and why your silence might just be the most seductive move you'll ever make. 1. Shock and ego hit. When you suddenly stop talking to a woman, the very first thing she feels isn't sadness, it's shock. It's a jolt to her system. Why? Because attention, especially for men, is something most women grow accustomed to without even realizing it. Whether it's a casual crush, a situationship, or even a long-term relationship, women naturally expect the flow of communication to keep going. Your presence becomes part of her routine. Even if she pretends not to care, even if she responds slowly or casually, she notices your consistency. So when that flow stops, when you go silent, it's like pulling the rug out from under her ego. Her mind doesn't process it as, oh, he's just busy. Instead, the first subconscious question that hits her is, wait, why isn't he talking to me anymore? And here's the twist most men don't realize. The shock isn't just about you, it's about her. Her ego takes the hit first, long before her heart even reacts. She wonders if she's losing her grip on your attention, and that's a dangerous place for her pride to be. At that moment, you shift from being the pursuer to being the question mark. And in romance, mystery is magnetic. To make this clearer, think about the famous scene in the movie, He's Just Not That Into You. Remember when Scarlett Johansson's character keeps expecting a man to text her, but instead, he pulls back? At first, she brushes it off, but as the silence stretches, you can see the panic flash across her face. She starts replaying every interaction in her head. Did I say something wrong? Was I not good enough? Why isn't he reaching out? That tiny shift in his behavior plants a seed of self-doubt that begins to grow uncontrollably. That's exactly how real life works too. Women are often surrounded by attention, social media DMs, guys flirting at work, compliments from strangers. But when your voice, your presence suddenly disappears, it stands out. Silence cuts deeper than words because it forces her to confront the possibility that she's no longer in control. And control is everything in the game of attraction. When she feels like she has you, she relaxes. But when you step back without warning, the security she thought she had begins to slip. That's the shock. That's the ego hit. Here's the seductive truth. You don't have to raise your voice, chase her, or demand attention. Your silence alone has the power to flip her emotions. She may act calm on the outside, but inside, she's rattled. That's the first step in how a woman reacts when you stop talking to her. Her ego feels the sting, and she begins to wonder, what changed? 2. Curiosity sparked. Once the initial shock of your silence sets in, something else begins to brew inside her. Curiosity. This is where things get interesting, because women are naturally curious beings. They don't just accept situations at face value, they want to dig deeper, connect the dots, and figure out the why behind every shift in energy. And when you suddenly stop talking, it flips a switch in her brain. She starts to think about you more than she intended. Even if she wasn't giving you her full attention before, now you've left her with questions. Why did he stop? Did I do something wrong? Is he upset? Did he lose interest? Or is there someone else? Notice what's happening here. The silence is no longer just about the absence of your voice. It's the presence of her own thoughts filling that space. And here's the truth. The human mind can be cruel when left to wander. She begins to replay every recent conversation, every message, every small detail she might have missed. And what does curiosity do? It makes her restless. She might check your social media more than usual, wondering if you're online but ignoring her. She might scroll through your old chats, looking for signs of distance she didn't notice before. She might even talk to her friends, trying to piece together what's going on. This stage is powerful because curiosity is a gateway emotion. It's not as raw as jealousy or as sharp as anger, but it's what opens the door to both. Once her curiosity is ignited, it becomes nearly impossible for her to ignore you. She may try to play it cool, act like she hasn't noticed, but inside her thoughts are racing. You've probably experienced something similar yourself. Think about a time when someone you cared about suddenly pulled away. You didn't just shrug it off. You thought about it, sometimes over and over, until you couldn't focus on anything else. That's the pull of curiosity. It nags at you. It scratches at the back of your mind and it refuses to let go. And the beauty of this stage is that you don't even have to do anything. The less you say, the more she thinks. The less you explain, the more she imagines. And in romance, imagination is often more powerful than reality. Here's the key. Curiosity doesn't feel like control to her. It feels like chaos. She's not used to asking herself these questions about a man. She's used to having answers, to being the one who chooses how much attention she gives and receives. But now, she's the one waiting, she's the one wondering, and she's the one slowly drawn deeper into your silence. This is the turning point. When curiosity is sparked, she's no longer indifferent. You've taken space in her mind, and that's where desire begins to grow. 3. Power shift. When you stop talking to a woman and her curiosity starts burning, something subtle but powerful happens next. The balance of power shifts. Up until that moment, she probably felt secure. Maybe she thought she had your attention locked in, that you'd always be there to text back, to call, to check in. She might have even been the one deciding when to respond or how much energy to give. That's control. And in most interactions, women are used to having it. But silence rewrites the rules. Suddenly, the attention she thought she could count on disappears. She's no longer holding the reins. She's reacting to you instead of directing you. And that's the real shift, when a woman who was once comfortable now has to adjust to a new rhythm, a rhythm you set by stepping back. Think about how this feels from her side. One day, she's in control of the pace. She knows when your message will come, how quickly you'll respond, and that reassurance allows her to relax. But the moment you go quiet, she loses that stability. The silence feels unpredictable. She doesn't know when you'll show up again, or if you'll show up at all. That unpredictability is what makes her lean in. It's very similar to when you're sitting in a conversation and someone pauses before answering. That silence makes you lean forward, eager to hear what's next. The pause creates anticipation, and anticipation creates power. That's exactly what your silence does in her world. It places you in control of the tempo. Let's bring it home with something you can picture. Imagine two people dancing. In the beginning, she's leading, pulling you forward, deciding the pace. But then, mid-dance, you suddenly step back and change the rhythm. For a moment, she stumbles, caught off guard. Then she realizes she has to follow your movement if the dance is going to continue. That's the power shift. By withdrawing, by controlling your presence, you've become the one who leads without even saying a word. This doesn't mean she's powerless. It means she's adjusting to your silence. And in that adjustment, she gives up something important, her comfort. Now, you've become the unpredictable element in her life. And what's unpredictable is always more exciting than what's guaranteed. That's the seduction of silence. You move from being the man who chases to being the man she has to figure out. And once she's trying to figure you out, the power is no longer in her hands. It's in yours. 4. Mixed emotions. After the shock wears off and curiosity has her thinking nonstop, she begins to feel something even deeper: confusion. And confusion in a woman often comes with a swirl of emotions all fighting for space at the same time. When you stop talking to her, she doesn't just feel one thing. She feels many, and they hit in waves. One moment, she's annoyed. She thinks, "How dare he just go quiet on me?" The next, she feels insecure, wondering, "Am I not good enough for him anymore?" And in between those two, there's a spark of something she can't quite admit out loud: desire. Because whether she likes it or not, your silence makes her miss the attention she once took for granted. That's the beauty of this stage. It's messy, unpredictable, and powerful. She can't quite pin down how she feels, and that's what keeps her locked in. She can't put you in a box anymore because your actions have forced her into an emotional tug of war. You've probably felt something similar before. Maybe someone close to you pulled away and you weren't sure how to respond. One minute you were angry, the next you missed them, and then you were back to wondering if you should care at all. That push and pull of emotions is exhausting, but it's also addictive. It keeps you from letting go, because your feelings won't sit still. That's exactly what happens in her mind when you stop talking. Here's where it gets interesting. These mixed emotions don't cancel each other out. They build on each other. The anger makes her want to prove she doesn't care. The insecurity makes her crave reassurance. And the desire makes her want to reach out. All of it together creates a storm that revolves around you, and you're not even saying a word. This is why silence works so deeply. Words can be brushed off. Arguments can be ignored. But when you pull away and give her nothing, her emotions are forced to rise up to fill that empty space. And those emotions aren't simple. They're layered, messy, and intense. The truth is, women aren't designed to feel indifference toward a man who once gave them attention. Once you've touched her world, even briefly, she's wired to respond when that presence disappears. And her reaction is rarely calm. It's restless, emotional, and sometimes overwhelming. So when you stop talking, understand this. You're not just fading quietly into the background. You've started a storm inside her. A storm of anger, insecurity, longing, and curiosity all at once. And that storm keeps her mind circling back to you, no matter how hard she tries to push it away. 5. Her testing phase. When a woman has gone through the shock, the curiosity, and the swirl of emotions, she usually doesn't just sit back and wait forever. No, this is when she begins to test you. Silence triggers her instinct to figure out where she stands with you. And the easiest way for her to do that is to send little signals, little probes, just to see how you'll respond. These aren't always direct. Most of the time, they're subtle. Maybe she posts something online she knows you'll see. Maybe she sends a random text that doesn't really mean much, just to check if you'll bite. Or maybe she brings up something small, something almost innocent, because deep down she wants to confirm whether your silence is permanent or if you're still within her reach. Think of it like fishing. She throws out small hooks to see if she can reel you back in. Sometimes the hook is sweetness. "Hey, I saw something today that reminded me of you." Other times it's drama. "I don't even know if you care anymore." The point isn't the words themselves, it's the test. She wants to know, will you react? Will you chase again? Or will you hold your ground? This phase can be frustrating if you don't recognize it, because her actions often seem inconsistent. One day, she'll act like she doesn't care at all. The next, she'll drop a hint so obvious you'd be blind to miss it. That's not confusion. It's strategy. She's trying to pull you out of your silence without admitting that your silence is affecting her. To really see this in action, think about the dynamic in the movie Gone Girl. Remember how Amy carefully staged her moves, leaving just enough clues to keep Nick reacting? It wasn't about clarity. It was about control. While not as extreme in real life, women often do the same thing in relationships. They'll leave a trail, not because they're lost, but because they want to see if you'll follow. Here's what makes this stage so powerful. If you break your silence too easily during her tests, you hand the control right back to her. But if you stay composed, calm, and intentional, she starts to realize your silence isn't an accident. It's a choice. And that's when she really starts to feel your presence, even in your absence. This testing phase is where her desire often deepens, because every unanswered test reminds her that she doesn't have the same grip on you she once did. And that realization, though it may frustrate her, also makes you harder to resist. So understand this. When she tests you, it's not a sign that she's done. It's proof that she's still invested enough to try and pull you back in. And the way you handle those tests will decide whether she chases harder or walks away. 6. Obsession and desire. If your silence holds long enough, something undeniable starts to build inside her. Desire. And not the soft, casual kind, but the type that feels like it gnaws at her when she's alone. Here's the thing. Attention is addictive. Once someone gets used to your presence, your calls, your texts, your check-ins, it becomes part of their rhythm. When you suddenly take that rhythm away, it creates a craving. At first, it's just curiosity, but if you hold your ground, that curiosity transforms into a deeper hunger. She doesn't just want answers anymore. She wants you. That's where obsession sneaks in. She thinks about you more often than she admits. You're in the back of her mind when she's at work, when she's out with her friends, even late at night when she can't sleep. She might tell herself she doesn't care, but her actions betray her. Every time she checks her phone hoping to see your name, every time she replays your last conversation in her head, every time she wonders if you're thinking of her too, that's obsession creeping in. It's not about the words you said, it's about the silence you left behind. Silence creates space, and space makes the mind restless. And when the mind is restless, desire takes root. That's why she suddenly feels drawn to you, even stronger than before. The same attention she once took lightly now feels priceless, because she no longer has it guaranteed. The shift is powerful because it flips the dynamic completely. The woman who once felt secure now feels the ache of wanting. The man who once chased is now the one being chased in her thoughts, even if she doesn't admit it out loud. And that's the point. You've become the unanswered question she can't let go of. You've probably experienced this yourself. Think about a time when someone pulled away from you, and no matter how much you tried to distract yourself, they kept showing up in your thoughts. That pull wasn't logical, it was emotional. That's what desire does. It bypasses reason and goes straight for the heart. Here's what makes it so seductive. The more she resists admitting she misses you, the stronger the desire becomes. Because denying feelings never erases them. It only magnifies them. And your silence, steady and unbroken, keeps feeding that tension. By this stage, she doesn't just want to hear from you, she needs to. She craves reassurance, contact, anything that breaks the silence. And in her mind, the value of your attention has skyrocketed, simply because it's no longer easy to get. That's the power of silence. It doesn't just create space, it creates longing. And longing, when it grows unchecked, becomes obsession. 7. The dangerous line. Silence is powerful. It shocks her, it makes her curious, it shifts the power, it stirs emotions, and yes, it can even create desire so strong it borders on obsession. But here's the truth most men overlook. Push it too far, and silence can destroy everything you were trying to build. There's a thin line between using silence as a tool and using it as a weapon. When used with balance, silence draws her in, makes her value your presence, and creates that pull of attraction. But when you let it drag on too long, you don't come across as mysterious. You come across as careless or, worse, indifferent. And indifference kills desire faster than anything. This is where many men slip up. They think, if silence works, then more silence will work even better. Wrong. If you disappear completely, if you give her no pathway back to you, she won't keep chasing forever. At some point, her pride, her self-respect, or simply her need for closure will kick in, and she'll move on. And when she does, You'll lose the very power your silence created. So here's where you need to wake up and reflect. Are you using silence with purpose, or are you just hiding behind it because you don't know what else to do? Silence should never be about avoiding responsibility or punishing her. It should be about resetting the balance, creating space, and letting her feel the weight of your absence. If you notice she's testing you, reaching out, or showing signs of wanting to reconnect, that's your window. That's when you step back in. Not by chasing, not by groveling, but by calmly reestablishing yourself. Because the goal isn't to vanish. The goal is to build respect and attraction. And respect only grows when you know when to pull away and when to return. Ask yourself, are you silent because you're genuinely focused on yourself, your growth, your purpose? Or are you silent just to see how much she'll chase you? The first makes you stronger. The second makes you manipulative. And eventually, it backfires. So here's the constructive truth. Don't play with silence carelessly. Use it as a man who values his energy, who knows his worth, and who refuses to be taken for granted. But also know when to speak, when to show up, and when to let her feel your presence again. The dangerous line is real. Cross it, and you risk losing her completely. But balance it, and you become unforgettable. The man she respects, the man she desires, and the man she can't stop thinking about. At the end of the day, silence isn't about punishing her. It's about reminding her that your attention is valuable. And a valuable man doesn't need to scream, beg, or chase. His silence says it all. So, we've walked through what really happens when you suddenly stop talking to a woman. The shock, the curiosity, the power shift, the emotions, the tests, the obsession, and finally, the dangerous line you must never cross. If you've been paying attention, you'll notice something important. Silence is not just about her, it's also about you. And here's the controversial truth most men don't want to hear. Sometimes the reason your silence doesn't work is because she was never that interested in you to begin with. Hard to swallow, right? But it's better to face that reality than to waste your time trying to pull energy out of someone who was never invested. Now, don't take that as defeat. Take it as clarity. When a woman reacts strongly to your silence, it means you mattered. When she doesn't, it means you now have the freedom to invest your energy somewhere it will actually be valued. Either way, you win. So, my challenge to you is this. Reflect on how you use silence. Are you using it with purpose, to create respect and balance? Or are you using it as a lazy trick because you don't know how to lead with strength? The difference between those two will decide whether you attract real connection or push it away. I'd love to hear your experiences with this. How did a woman react when you went silent? Drop your story in the comments below. I'll be reading and replying. Let's have that conversation.